From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun. Tonight, conflicts and coups are a setback to Africa's development and must be avoided as much as possible. So says President Muhammadu Buhari and his Ethiopian counterpart Abiy Ahmed, as they both seek stronger leadership to guarantee the needed growth in the continent. A new political group springs up comprising politicians, members of civil society groups and the intelligentsia with the aim of bringing as many Nigerians as possible on board. 3 crew members found alive as rescue operations continue days after the explosion that rocked the Trinity Terminal at Okpokiti in Delta State. Efforts ongoing to find 7 missing persons. At least 6 people have been killed and nearly 50,000 displaced after strong winds and rain by Cyclone Batsarai batters villages in Madagascar. And the battle for Africa's football crown heats up as Egypt and Senegal lock horns at the finals of the African Nations Cup 2021 in Cameroon. We begin from Addis Ababa, where President Muhammadu Buhari and his Ethiopian counterpart Abiy Ahmed have been speaking on the negative impact of conflicts and coups on the continent. The 2 leaders who were speaking during a meeting at the ongoing African Union Summit were unanimous that for the African continent to achieve unhindered growth and development, it needs visionary leadership that caters to the needs of the people, builds strong institutions, and provides incentives to conflict and coups. President Buhari commended the efforts of Prime Minister Ahmed in maintaining peace and unity in his country and his dedication to ensuring fairness and justice in development. In his remarks, the Prime Minister thanked the President for his support to the country over the years on national and personal endeavors, particularly in encouraging unity and stability. The Prime Minister said the resurgence of coups on the continent could further weaken institutions and reverse the gains of democracy, appreciating President Buhari for his position on zero tolerance for military interference in governance. Back home, as the 2023 elections inches closer, more and more groups are coming up with their programs for Nigerians. Today, another group joined the fray with the aim of changing the present political narrative in the country. The group, which goes by the name National Consultative Front, comprising of some politicians, religious leaders, members of civil society organizations, is hoping to galvanize efforts and bring to the fore reliable Nigerians who can be trusted to lead the nation going forward.
Turned out to be.
Nigerians are beginning to get more involved with the national political terrain by constantly challenging the democratic process through various means like social media and peaceful protest marches. Another means is joining the bandwagon of parties, which is what this gathering under the aegis of National Consultative Front is here to announce.
What is happening here is an amalgamation of the willing and the dispossessed. I call them the willing and dispossessed. Nigerians who are passionate to rebuild Nigeria because they know what it should be. And Nigerians who have been schemed out by the political class of now. These are youth who have been called lazy. These are women who have been so ignored that we are an embarrassment compared to Rwanda and small African countries in terms of participation of women in politics.
Some here feel a drastic change needs to be born and the involvement of youths and women in governance should be given more attention.
We are going to cooperate with the National Consultative Front and many other similar organizations in this country that have the same objective, that is to say, making sacrifices in order to rescue Nigeria from dwindling in the manner it is doing. Because if you are not up and doing, the danger is that we may lose this country.
On the other hand, some spiritual leaders are of the opinion that no matter how bad the leadership may be, a lot of attitudinal changes must come from Nigerians.
Sincerity, passion, commitment, sacrifice, and people who see the future, who have a vision for a nation called Nigeria, and people who love Nigeria even more than themselves, who are ready to make sure that the average Nigerian, especially the downtrodden, have a space in the sun.
Again, the Nigeria Labour Congress is serious about floating a political platform that can engineer and also bring up the aspiration of the Nigerian workers. We are tired of probably looking up to other political parties, that does not have the interests of Nigerians and Nigerian workers at heart. So our main purpose of being here is to see how we can also collaborate with these other groups that are here, so that jointly we can actually put in place a leadership that is for the people and for the workers.
As talk of new political parties emerge, the agendas of emerging platforms will be of huge interest to many Nigerians who are eager to see if there is a major difference between the old and the new.
Staying with politics, youth on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, that's from the Southwest Zone and Kwara State, are demanding for a power shift in the next election cycle. The youth who converged in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to create awareness on the need to negotiate a better deal for Nigerian youth in politics also resolved that 2023 should witness more youth participation in the country.
The Obafemi Awolowo Stadium Ibadan comes alive with all the vigor associated with the gathering of young people in the Oyo State capital. Beyond the music and fanfare, the progressive youths of the APC are the vanguard of pushing for youth participation in politics, amongst other issues. They believe that at least 50% of elective and appointed positions must come to the youth, who constitute the larger demographic in the country.
We're working towards attaining a critical mass for young people with regards to getting more young people included in decision-making structures and processes, both within the party system and in government.
This is a massive rally for the young people, by the young people, strictly doing it by themselves. And this is a progressive. This is one of our programs leading to the convention on the 26th. We are going to have it in every zone.
Recently, there has been a reawakening among young people not to stand idly by in politics, but rather take action by getting involved, a sentiment shared by most of them here.
What we are seeing here today is the youth organizing themselves. It is time for everyone to know that the youth are ready to take over.
God will not come down to come and build Nigeria for us. God can only create an opportunity for us to be able to take the country to where the country should be. And such opportunity is coming in 2023 because we will not have an incumbent president that the constituencies that they pose. We want to change our style of politics from anointing one person as a president before the election day. We want to form an institution. We want to form a community of forward thinkers who will put the unity and peace of this country at the forefront. And we can be able to identify criteria and give every presidential candidate an opportunity.
This gathering is apparently a clarion call on the older generation of politicians and the establishment in the party and the nation to rethink its approach ahead of the 2023 general elections.
Still in politics and in the South-South region, where Governor Nyesom Wike has warned his party, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to ensure that its presidential candidate for next year's election is one that has the interest of the nation at heart. Governor Wike was speaking at the conferment of a traditional title on him by the ancient Kalabari Kingdom of Rivers State.
The gathering of Kalabari people of Rivers State at the secondary school field in Abalama community doesn't come always, and whenever it does, it is to celebrate something of significance to the residents of the area. 21 years after the last gathering of this nature, the chiefs, Men and women of the 3 local government area of Kalabari region roll out the drums in honor of Governor Nyesom Wike for what they described as his unprecedented level of achievement in the coastal area.
Your Excellency, recently we tried to take stock and carry out a forensic audit of all the development projects we have received. And their audit revealed that you have invested over 40 billion naira in Kalabari area since your administration.
He is conferred with a newly created but high-profile traditional title by the traditional institution. Dressed in his full regalia, Governor Nyesom Wike mounts the podium to appreciate his host and seizes the opportunity to speak to their conscience on their next political quest.
Since 1999, you could have been running for governorship. I'm not saying a Kalabari man will not be governor. Don't be you know, you want me where I will say today, Kalabari man will be governor, I won't say that. If this is what you want me, I will not say it. But what I'm trying to tell you, as intelligent people, as people who are knowledgeable, you must know how to put yourself together.
He also bears his mind on national politics and the need for his party, the People's Democratic Party, to produce a presidential candidate with people-oriented agenda.
No amount of gang up, not one, can make PDP to provide somebody who will want to run election for interest of some big men, but not for Nigerians. It will not work. Everybody wants to be candidate of PDP must be candidate for the interest of Nigerians. The day the South will speak, Nigeria will shake.
With this title, Governor Wike is recognized as a member of the Kalabari Kingdom, a major Ijo ethnic group in Rivers State with 3 local government areas of Asari Toru, Akuku Toru, and Degema, a famous district in the old eastern region of Nigeria.
Meanwhile, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called on leaders to seek the common goal of uniting Nigerians to work and redeem Nigeria, as he calls for support to the escalating humanitarian crisis in Benue State over the displacement of about 1.5 million people caught up in the farmers and herders conflict. Alhaji Abubakar was speaking earlier today during a condolence visit to Governor Samuel Ortom, where he donated the sum of 50 million naira to victims of the crisis.
When we met privately, the only point of perhaps disagreement between the governor and myself was, I said, why do you profile violence through ethnic profiling? And he told me, my elder brother, I am not referring to the Fulanis that we live with and we have always lived with, but I'm referring to the Fulanis who have migrated from outside Nigeria to come and cause disorder, conflict, and bring about conflict amongst the various ethnic groups.
Speaking earlier, Governor Samuel Ortom thanked him for identifying with Benue over its security challenges.
You are part of us. You are our own as the Jedemure team. The great shelter of the Tiv people. This is your home. And so we're happy to receive you and to thank you for making time to come. Because the vacuum that was created as a result of your inability to come, especially when the same people that you were supposed to provide shelter to them were under siege and attack, became an issue. Several people were asking, where is the great shelter of the two people? Where is it?
In part two, after the break, Governor Darius Ishaku of Taraba State issues stern warning to those behind the crisis in the Bisaula community to desist or face the full wrath of the law. Together. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Conflicts and coups are a setback to Africa's development and must be avoided as much as possible, so says President Muhammadu Buhari and his Ethiopian counterpart Abiy Ahmed, as they both seek stronger leadership to guarantee the needed growth on the continent. A new political group springs up comprising politicians, members of civil society groups and the intelligentsia, with the aim of bringing as many Nigerians as possible on board. 3 crew members found alive as rescue operations continue days after the explosion that rocked the Trinity terminal at Ukpokiti in Delta State. Efforts ongoing to find 7 missing persons. And at least 6 people have been killed and nearly 50,000 others displaced after strong winds and rain by Cyclone Batsirai batters villages in Madagascar. Three crew members of Sepcol have been found days after the explosion and the fire that razed the Trinity Spirit Terminal in Ukpokiti in Delta State. According to a statement by Sepcol's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Ikemefuna Okafo, the 3 crew members are undergoing medical treatment, while 7 others are still missing as efforts are on to find them. He adds that one body, whose identity is yet to be ascertained, was recovered at the vicinity of the explosion. The statement adds that there is a joint effort to clean up and limit damage to the environment and establish the cause of the explosion. All is well that ends well. That appears to be the message from Governor Willie Obiano to security service commanders in this state, that's Anambra State, as his tenure winds down. Now, the governor says the peace that has been achieved in Anambra during his tenure has been possible because of the efforts of the security chiefs. And to show his appreciation, the governor hosted the commanders and their spouses in his country home, Aguleri, where he commended their professionalism and efforts at maintaining peace in Anambra State.
Here at the banquet hall of Governor Willie Obiano's country home in Aguleri are service commanders hosted by the governor to show appreciation over their commitment to keep the state safe. Speaking on behalf of his colleagues, the Commissioner of Police appreciates their hosts for creating an enabling environment and calls for better synergy among security operatives.
You are not only recognizing us, but also our wives here today. Your Excellency, they are actually behind our strengths. Without them to take care of the home fronts, we will not give our best. So our dear wives, we love you. And thank you for being here this evening. Your Excellency, very early in your tenure as Executive Governor of Anambra State, you recognized the importance of security.
For Governor Willie Obiano, the availability of funds for security operatives should be at the forefront of any political dispensation to get desired results.
I will appreciate the members of the council very well because they did a great job. Great job. That Anambra is the second state today is because of their efforts. It's not wishful thinking. I know how I work with them. You call Colonel Usman 2 in the morning, he will pick your call and deploy troops. Call CP, any
With such synergy between the state government and security forces, the people of Anambra expect a safer environment, even as it prepares for a change of guard.
Warlords and ethnic champions fueling the crisis in Bisaula community of Kurmi local government area of Taraba State must stop forthwith or be ready to face the full wrath of the law. The governor of Taraba State, Darius Ishaku, issued the warning at the inauguration of a 9-man commission of inquiry set up to find a lasting solution to the crisis. His warning follows 4 years of conflict between the youth leader and the district head of the community, which has led to several deaths, destruction of property, and displacement of more than 3,000 residents of the community.
Bisaula community in Kurmi local government area of Taraba State is in crisis. The village of over 3,000 people is deserted, and the fleeing residents take refuge in neighboring communities. The root of the crisis is a war on tribal superiority that started in 2018 between the district head, who is of the Ichen tribe, and the youth leader, who is of the Ndaka tribe. The chairman of the local government area gives some insight into the scale of the crisis.
Bisaula ward has been one of the wards that I have a little challenges between the elders and the youth. That problem started as far back as 2018. I inherited that problem in that ward. The Dakachi of Bisaula is on one side. The chairman of the youth is on the other side. They don't agree. There are more than 3,000 people that are displaced because Bisaula is an old settlement. Since the ugly incident happened in Bisaula, to the best of my knowledge, it's only a life that was lost, and some 3 or 4 people were injured. There was not much casualty, but only houses were destroyed. Over 50 houses were destroyed.
Despite several peace-building efforts by the state government, there seems to be no end in sight to the conflict. The feud, which is responsible for the loss of lives and property over the years, has forced the state governor to set up a 9-man judicial commission of inquiry to look at the root cause and recommend a possible solution to the now 4-year clash. He gives a stern warning to all complicit in the conflict.
Let me use this opportunity to warn ethnic champions and warlords that government will not fold its hands and watch the lives of innocent people being killed and the hard-earned property of people being destroyed for some parochial reasons that defy logic and common sense.
The panel is charged with bringing a lasting solution to the crisis, but hasn't been given a specific time frame within which to do so. Panels such as this one have been set up in the past to find solutions to previous ethnic clashes in the state, such as the clashes between the Tiv and Jukun tribes and the Jole and Shomo tribes.
Following the recent deadly violence that broke out at Oyo Baptist High School, Ijagbo in Kwara State, arising from the controversy over the wearing of the hijab, both Muslims and Christians in the state are calling for a thorough investigation of the matter. They're asking the state government and security operatives to find and prosecute the perpetrators of the attack, which led to the death of 1 person in front of the school last Tuesday.
The crisis happened again, a year after the state experienced a series of protests on the use of hijab in public schools. Some female Muslim students were denied entry into Oyo Baptist High School in spite of the directive by the state government that willing female students should be allowed to use the hijab in the public schools. This led to a protest which degenerated into violence and the subsequent death of one Habib Idris. In order to prevent further breakdown of law and order, security operatives were deployed to the school.
We heard that a lot of people brandishing guns and the rest of them had almost invaded the school. So based on that information, the Commissioner of Police directed teams of policemen to go there and restore peace. But as far as we are concerned, for now, there is no official confirmation that somebody has been killed.
This government has no political will. At separate press conferences in Ilorin and Ijagbo, The Kwara State Muslim Stakeholders and Christian Association of Nigeria call on the state government to set up a commission of inquiry on the killing and attack on peaceful protesters. The Muslims are asking the state government to enforce the fundamental human rights of the Muslim child in Christian-named public schools.
We expect the government to immediately take full control of all schools. All schools disobeying the court judgment and extant government circulars on the use of hijab and related matters.
However, the Christians are asking that the schools be returned to them.
We challenge the state governor to be man enough to fulfill his promise of the return of our schools. Memorandum of understanding on returning these schools to proprietors have been submitted to the state governor since June last year. But up till now, nothing has been heard about that memorandum of understanding submitted to them.
In the coming days, appropriate steps are expected to be taken to find a lasting solution to the recurring issue of hijab wearing in public schools in Kwara State.
Recently, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control announced that more than 30 people have died of Lassa fever since the beginning of the new year, with 170 cases in 3 weeks. Amidst this public health concern, our health workers who are in the front line of the fight against Lassa fever and often get infected and sometimes lose their lives to the disease. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, spoke to some medical doctors in Bauchi who survived Lassa fever and the challenges they face in managing the disease.
In 2020, the nation lost one of its best consultant anesthesiologist intensivist, Dr. Habib Mohammed of the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital in Kano to Lassa fever. 2 senior consultant gynecologists died of Lassa last year at the Dalhatu Arfat Specialist Hospital in Lafia, Nasarawa State. In Bauchi, from 2019 to date, 19 healthcare workers have been infected with Lassa fever, including Dr. Muhammad Ghazali, a resident doctor with the Department of Family Medicine at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi. He contracted Lassa fever after caring for a fellow doctor who later died of the disease.
It had broken down a lot of our colleagues. It had affected us both mentally and physically and psychologically. It took a toll not just on me and my immediate family, but even the hospital, the community, and doctors at large.
It's the season of Lassa again, and the vulnerability of healthcare workers increases as the rate of infection grows. What could be responsible for hospital outbreak?
What the major challenge in managing Lassa fever for healthcare workers is because of the similarity in presentation with other illnesses. And then at times, especially in the lower hospitals, you see that the usage of IPC measures is not optimal. It's not what is actually desired.
We come in contact with them, but we can only suspect at our own level. We can just query. But when it's confirmed, we don't know. So you won't even know which particular patient had it and which one did not have it because you're not getting the feedback.
Some doctors also say they take risk for patients when they run short of personal protective equipment, but this is no longer an option.
As concerns intensify at the rate at which health workers are getting infected with Lassa fever, authorities are being deliberate about advisories. A caution to maintain a high index of suspicion for Lassa fever, among others, spreads boldly on this flyer.
However, the management of ATBU Teaching Hospital assures that more preventive measures are in place for health practitioners.
So we have stocked a lot of PPEs that can take up to 2 years as of now. So as such, this intervention helps us in the preventive aspect of the disease.
The ratio of doctors to patients in Nigeria is already below global recommendation, and it's worsened by the brain drain in the sector. The nation cannot continue to lose healthcare workers to outbreaks like Lassa fever. This is a threat to the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 3, which emphasizes well-being for all. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Africa Cup of Nations final in Cameroon between Egypt and Senegal is now heading to penalty kicks after a goalless draw in regulation and extra time. Please join us again. Welcome back. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is frowning at the alleged approval for security agencies to access people's personal details via the NIN to SIM linkage without due process of the law, an action that has prompted the rights group to write President Muhammadu Buhari to review and rescind the decision. SERAP says its letter follows reports that some security agencies have received presidential approval to access people's personal details via the database of the National Identity Management Commission in the course of carrying out their duties. The rights group is also asking the President to forward an executive bill to the National Assembly to repeal and reform all laws which are inconsistent and incompatible with Nigerians' rights to privacy, dignity, and liberty. Over 22,000 kilograms of codeine and other illicit drugs have been intercepted by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency at the Apapa Seaport and Akala in the Mushin area of Lagos State. At the Apapa port, about 14,000 kilograms of codeine syrup concealed in a 40-foot container imported from India were intercepted, while 3,000 kilograms of methamphetamine were seized in a raid at Akala in Mushin. Now, the operation led to the arrest of 17 suspects, including 5 females. The seizure at the Lagos Seaport follows intelligence from foreign partners and cooperation of other port stakeholders. Some other arrests were also made in Delta State, where a 21-year-old female was nabbed with 17.6 kilograms of assorted drugs purchased from Onitsha, Anambra State, amongst other successful raids by the operatives of the agency. Nigeria's education system is witnessing significant deterioration because, while students want to pass, they are not prepared to do the necessary work required for such achievement. That's the view of the former Director General of the Nigerian Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Ladi Hamalai. Professor Hamalai told Channels Television's Ladi Akeredoluwale on our current affairs program Newsnight that teachers have a share of the blame because they haven't established a balance between conducive working environment and the need to keep the system running when they are perpetually on strikes.
What is, I think, the most disheartening things today is the inability of students to really focus on learning. From my experience as a lecturer, most students are not interested in learning, but they want to pass. And that is why there's so much corruption in Nigerian universities. I know many university administrations have recent times tried to double up and maintain some discipline, control some of these dysfunctions in the university system. And in some universities, you see that discipline is gradually returning. Yeah, but generally speaking, all of us have this basic challenge of students who want to pass and they don't want to work for it, or they don't have time to work for it. What may be lacking is the awareness that probably the incessant strikes may be more damaging to Nigerian university system than lack of funds.
For the full interview with Professor Ladi Hamalai, do watch Newsnight tomorrow, Monday, February the 7th, 2022 at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. The call by Nigerians to the UK Home Office to suspend the English proficiency test written by Nigerians as a criteria for gaining admission, fellowships and jobs abroad keeps growing by the day. With over 600,000 signatures garnered via a petition on change.org, some Nigerians believe they are being made as cash cows or as learning from kindergarten to the tertiary level, which is done in English language. However, The UK Home Office, in a response to the petition, says based on the publicly available evidence, Nigeria doesn't meet the requirement to be exempted from taking the test. Our correspondent Victor Matthias tells us more.
What began as a random social media hashtag, drawing the attention of the UK to its policy of subjecting Nigerians to an English proficiency test, popularly known as International English Language Testing System, has now turned into a movement. The convener of the movement says this is as a result of Nigerians missing out on so many opportunities on the global stage.
Nigerians are losing out on so many opportunities abroad because of this exam. There's also the economic reason. The cost of these tests are almost thrice our minimum wage, and their results expire every 2 years. So it means that if I write the IELTS exam or the TOEFL exam to get into a bachelor's program in the US or in the UK, before my bachelor's program is even complete, I would have to rewrite again if I want to do a master's or a PhD, as the case may be.
The movement also caught the attention of the federal government as last year, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo promised to ensure the policy is rescinded.
I agree entirely that, first of all, as an English-speaking country, we should be beneficiaries of some concessions as opposed to being forced every 2 years to take the same test, especially if you had passed it once before. So I think this is something that we should really work on.
With thousands of signatures already acquired in support of asking the UK Home Office to backtrack on this, the movement has gotten the attention of the UK government. But in its response, it says, to be included on the majority English-speaking country list, we must have evidence that most people in the country, more than half, speak English as a first language. We rely on publicly available evidence such as official censuses to make this determination along with other academic sources. We may also consult the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office where additional evidence is required. Currently, on the information available to us, Nigeria does not meet the requirement. This list is periodically reviewed and updated, and new countries are ordered if they are found to meet the requirements. However, the UK Home Office exempts citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago, who, like Nigeria, were also colonized by the British and are still members of the Commonwealth, and 10 other countries from taking the test. For Mayowa Odunaiki, who has written the test twice, not because he failed the first time, but because the first result expired, says it is unethical for Nigerians to take the test, given that from home to schools, English is the major language used for communication.
From their response, I realized that, well, they are making merchandise of us, and they don't want it to stop. They don't want it to stop because the number of Nigerian immigrants that, go to the UK is increasing, by the year in, year out, and they are not seeing us, they are not seeing us exempted, from writing IELTS because of what they get from it.
Despite the policy, some Nigerians have gained admissions to schools in the UK, the US, Australia and Canada, amongst other countries where the test is required without taking the test.
In my own experience, I didn't have to write an IELTS. I think factors being that I had a postgraduate diploma that I did 2 years, or I think 3 years before I started my postgraduate diploma, my MSc in the UK, and that was used by the institution to prove my English language qualification.
With the movement gaining momentum on a daily basis, many Nigerians are hoping that the UK Home Office will either suspend the test in its entirety or make it a once-in-a-lifetime exercise at a reduced cost, just like it's applicable to some other countries. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Kiana Salt Village is one of the natural endowments that abound in Nasarawa State, but the site, which has existed for 8 centuries, may go extinct if not utilized. The number of older women who man the salt mines are reducing by the day, as the younger ones cannot endure the manual mode of production. As Governor Abdullahi Sule partners, investors and other areas, the people want the potentials of the salt mine harnessed. Our correspondent Halima Gayam reports.
About 67 kilometers drive from the state capital, Lafia, takes you to Kiana, a settlement of mostly peasant farmers sitting on unusual wealth. Kiana houses the historic Salt Village, a treasure which ushered in civilization for the people 800 years ago. While men engage in farming, women, mostly elderly, stay at the mines to produce salt. Underneath my feet is Kiana soil, which holds wealth in abundance. The natural resource beneath this soil, according to the locals, spans over 200 hectares, yet it is not adequately exploited. Generation after generation have languished in penury, despite the potential their land has. Government effort in the past in providing structures and other resources is fruitless, with hundreds of salt-producing women abandoning the site.
About 7 to 10 years ago, government have made effort to assist our women. They used to give them money to do it, but later on, they can't stop it.
Few older women are keeping the heritage alive. But they won't be handing over the inherited tradition, as the younger women have chosen other less tedious ventures. Jamila left the site to sell grains after 2 years' trial.
Muna roƙon gwamnati in zai taimaka mana zai dube mu da fiskan rahama ya taimaka mana kamar yadda ubangijin Allah ya taimaka musu ya kawo mana abin sarrafa gishiri na zamani.
One woman can produce 6 bags of salt in a year after living here for 3 months. With about 8 centuries of crude production, the yields are declining. Governor Abdullahi Sule's vision of industrialization raises the hope of the people who want him to consider the site.
We are happy that we have a governor whose pedigree is a well-known fact that is from the investment angle, and he has seen reason to bring investors to the state, and China is not different. And we are hoping that before he leaves, China will have her share of the MOU he's been signing all along, so that that vision to boost the industry comes to fruition.
Nigeria spends huge resources on the importation of salt, while salt residue lies fallow on the soil of Kiana. This is one place that could be used to tackle youth restiveness. The introduction of modern methods of salt production here will increase output, create jobs, and boost revenue. Halima Gayam, Channels Television News.
And now to the arts. Olayemi Fagbongbe is an artist with a taste for black, and not just for the sake of the color, but its connection to the continent. Art Review tonight journeys with the artist's expressions.
It's Olayemi Fagbongbe's solo exhibition at Art Pantheon Gallery in Lagos. A look at this statement gives a comprehensive guide to the artist's ideals and views about life, which has inspired these bronze creations displayed to the audience.
The title of this exhibition is Black. And why was black chosen? It was, I was just trying to portray our blackness in a kind of positive light, because most of the times I just realized that we don't really take that as a thing of pride, because most of the times we prefer foreign things over our locally produced things. We prefer foreign hospitals than our own local hospitals. We prefer foreign education over our own local education. And even in the arts, we tend to value the foreign artworks regardless to our own artwork. So how best could we tell our story? How best could we look at this blackness as a thing that is a blessing rather than a curse? How would we look at this that every other person will envy us? Instead of us trying to always want to go to the white man's world, why won't they also want to come here? Because we have a lot to offer. And then looking at Nigeria as it is, like this, a country that is so blessed with everything, but based on one thing or the other that I really want to start making mention of. I mean, we have not really harnessed these potentials.
Those who have encouraged this artist's growth notice his influences from growing up in the north to his architectural exposure, which plays a huge role in his works of art.
Fagbongbei is an amazing artist. He's an architect, and he chose to go into sculpting after he got his master's in architecture from the University of Lagos. I decided to go with this show because I saw a lot of tenacity, I saw strength. I saw a great movement in Yemi's works. His sculptures are just not ordinary. There's so much movement that you can see in each of the works that you just can't take your eyes off them. Every time I look at each piece, I just imagine, there was a particular work I love so much called Barale Loyal. And I looked at the way the work bent over, and I just imagine myself bending over my goals, my limitations, and being able to achieve so much. So I see a lot of strength.
Young artists are growing fast and showing that they can hold their own when it comes to artistic creations, and this exhibition adds to the many that proves that.
Whole villages are reportedly almost destroyed following Cyclone Batsirai's wrath on Madagascar. At least 6 people have been killed and nearly 50,000 people displaced as the second major storm in 2 weeks made landfall on the east coast with gusts of winds that's 235 kilometers per hour and high waves hitting coastal areas. The cyclone is now weakened according to the National Weather Service. Madagascar was already reeling from Tropical Storm Anna, which killed 55 people when it hit the Indian Ocean island nation last month. Batsirai has compounded the destruction, making landfall near the southeastern city of Mananjari, 530 kilometers from the capital Antananarivo at 8 p.m. local time. In a new twist on the Russia-Ukraine crisis, France's President Emmanuel Macron says he thinks a deal to avoid war in Ukraine is possible, but that it is legitimate for Russia to raise its own security concerns. Ahead of its visit to Moscow this week, the French president has called for a new balance that would protect European states, but also afford Russia respect. He expects his dialogue with President Vladimir Putin would likely be enough to prevent military conflict breaking out, and that he believed Mr. Putin would be open to discussing wider issues. Earlier today, U.S. officials said Russia had assembled about 70% of the military capability needed for a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine in the coming weeks. Russia is set to have more than 100,000 troops near Ukraine's border, but denies planning to attack.
We believe that there is a very distinct possibility that Vladimir Putin will order an attack on Ukraine. It could take a number of different forms. It could happen as soon as tomorrow, or it could take some weeks yet. He has put himself in a position with military deployments to be able to act aggressively against Ukraine at any time now, and we are working hard to rally our allies, to provide material support to the Ukrainians.
Days of painstaking efforts to rescue a 5-year-old Moroccan boy who fell into a well have ended in tragedy as he died on Saturday night. But the bid to free the boy, Ryan Oram, who had gripped the country with hundreds of people gathered at the well and thousands more following online.
As of Friday, rescue workers were closer to reaching the young boy trapped at the bottom of a well in a delicate operation to dig out large parts of a hillside where there is a risk of landslide. The 5-year-old boy, publicly identified only by his name, Ryan, fell into the well in the northern hill town of Chefchaouen on Tuesday, and his plight gripped the North African country. The well, 32 meters deep and narrow, as it descends from its 45-centimeter diameter at the top, meant the rescuers could not go down themselves to retrieve the child. By Saturday, rescuers had dug to within a few meters of reaching the boy. Workers with mechanical diggers worked round the clock to rescue Rayan, and on Saturday they said they had 2 more meters to reach the boy, and steel tubes were installed to prevent the collapse of the well's inner soil. They said it was difficult to determine his health condition because a camera that had been dropped down the well showed him lying on his side. It was unclear how long the digging will take due to difficulties relating to rocks and the danger of landslides. Hours later, rescuers retrieved the boy from the well where he had been stuck for 5 days, but it was not clear if he had survived the ordeal. Watching crowds cheered as the rescuers carried the 5-year-old to an ambulance. Social media exploded with jubilations from across Morocco and around the world. It soon turned to heartbreak minutes later when a statement came announcing that Rayan had died. Family members said their hearts were aching. His parents were seen receiving a phone call from King Mohammed, sending his condolences. Other family members were seen sobbing close to the scene. Rayan's father said he had been repairing the well at the time of the accident on Tuesday. He told media the following day that his son had fallen down the shaft the moment he took his eyes off him. A statement from the Moroccan Royal Palace has described Rayan's death as a tragic incident. And French President Emmanuel Macron posted on Facebook, "Tonight, I want to tell the family of little Rayan and the Moroccan people that we share their pain."
The Teranga Lions of Senegal are the champions of the Africa Cup of Nations Cameroon 2021, winning the title for the very first time. Well, the Senegalese team beat the Pharaohs of Egypt 4-2 on penalties in today's final after a thrilling goalless draw at regulation and, of course, at extra time. Well, the final was played at the Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé, Cameroon. With this victory, Senegal can now look to the next battle with the Egyptians, as they will be facing off again in the race for the final ticket for the World Cup Qatar 2022 in the month of March. It now appears the Nigeria Football Federation, the NFF, could backtrack on the appointment of Portuguese manager Jose Peseiro as the new head coach of the Super Eagles. The president of the Nigeria Football Federation, Mr. Amaju Pinnick, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television in Yaoundé, says the process on appointing the coach has stalled. The NFF had announced before the Super Eagles' participation at the African Nations Cup that the Portuguese manager will take charge of the team from interim coach Augustin Eguavoen after the AFCON.
The good news is that we did not sign the contract officially. We were waiting for, we were still going back and forth, because signing a contract is not just waking up and you sign a contract. No, you have to go through a lot of processes. And at a point, that thing stalled. So that's why I say, fortunately or unfortunately, we did not sign the contract. So we are still talking to him. I'm still talking to him. We have to look at the recommendation. If, for example, he still has to wait till after the World Cup qualifiers, we have to look at what the nation wants at this time. What is best for the nation? He has to wait. If in the course of his waiting, he gets another job, we wish him well.
Nigeria Women Under-20 head coach Christopher Danjuma is confident the Falconets will secure a spot at the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in August, having progressed to the final round of qualifiers. The girls will face the young Teranga Lionesses of Senegal in the final qualifying round in March in a two-leg affair, having knocked out Cameroon 3-0 on aggregate. Nigeria has participated in every edition of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup since its inception in 2002.
We have a target in whatever we do. That is how we keep building. Now we have a team that can score goals. If we can get a goal or make great chances within 22 minutes, now how do we bury those chances? That's what we keep working on. And we work on our set piece plays. Teams are not knowing how we do it, we want to perfect them. For every round, we have respect for our opponents, and that is our approach to the game. The issue of confidence, the issue of objectivity, we've told ourselves, every team that has played at this level, every squad has always qualified. A baton has been given, and this is the psyche for the players. I keep saying, these are players that are hungry to play in the World Cup, because of COVID, they were not able to play in the under-17. They don't know what the World Cup is all about. So you can see the drive, you can see the hunger, you can see the objective. So now, we go, that's what I said, immediately after here, we go back, we begin to walk. One more step into Costa Rica, no. By the grace of God, nothing should be stopped.
And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed today charged African leaders to create stronger platforms that will cater for the needs of the people. The two leaders who were speaking at the ongoing African Union Summit also highlighted how conflicts and coups have dwarfed the growth of the African continent. Also today, a new group comprising of some politicians, members of the civil society organizations and the intelligentsia announced its entrance into the nation's political scene. And Senegal today emerged the winner of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations played in Cameroon after defeating the Pharaohs of Egypt 4-2 on penalty kicks. Well, the match ended goalless in 120 minutes. That's the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. From all of us here, it's good night and stay safe.